You all have probably come across a certain thought before, like, man, gaming is so boring, or gaming just isn't like it used to be. And you wouldn't be alone in thinking that, as plenty of people share your opinion. A simple web search for gaming is boring is already enough to reveal dozens of Reddit threads and YouTube videos either questioning or detailing this topic. And now, having mentioned it, my video probably isn't the first one nor even the last one you have clicked on that is about this topic. After all, video game fatigue is a real phenomenon, and it is quite intriguing to hear people discuss it online, and I absolutely agree to some extent with it. So let's cut the nonsense. There are multiple reasons why gaming has become boring to some in past few years, so to not waste any more time, let's quickly go through some of those reasons.
Players mature and grow tired of gaming.
While I personally disagree with this statement, it most certainly does make sense. As a kid, even the simplest things like playing games seemed more grandiose than they do to an adult. After thousands of hours in all types of video games, they will eventually start feeling bland, and the human mind starts to seek other types of experiences that only an adult can face. Additionally, most adults simply do not have the time for games anymore, and as a result, no longer find enjoyment in their former hobby.
Lack of wish fulfillment.
While today's games are technically more advanced and capable of fulfilling the coolest dreams we had as kids, they often fail to evoke the similar levels of excitement. Anything we desired back in the days, like huge character rosters, immersive career modes, massive collaborations between different franchises, and so forth, already exist, leaving little to dream about in the future. And just to give you all an example, how are you gonna one-up Fortnite's collaborations? Like how?
Societal pressure.
In many countries, playing video games as an adult carries a negative social stigma, which can often lead to being labeled as childish or even antisocial. This general outlook on society can evolve into gamers finding gaming boring, as quitting their hobby could serve as a cornerstone toward putting their life together. After all, video games are quite addicting.
The overall quality of video games.
In the past 5 to 10 years, the overall quality of video games has somewhat dropped in many areas, whether it is bad writing, unappealing art direction, or repetitive gameplay. Perhaps the most egregious thing of them all is the poor quality control and lack of polish in general, to the point that day one patches are pretty much mandatory to avoid the game being borderline impossible to play. It really doesn't help that
Overpricing and expensive microtransactions.
video games are very expensive, so most of the times players wait for sales or stick to their free-to-play games, which are full of predatory microtransactions. They might keep those games funded, but at the same time, game developers tend to utilize extremely frustrating FOMO tactics to absorb every last penny out of your wallet. So upon realizing this, it is only natural to develop a sense of boredom towards your beloved hobby.
Repetitiveness.
Let's be brutally honest, if you keep playing the same game over and over again, it is no wonder you might find gaming boring. Surely you have heard about the definition of insanity before. Besides, most AAA studios are afraid of changing their already existing gameplay formulas, sticking to the overly safe and battle-tested games full of repetitive game mechanics that we grew accustomed to decades ago. No thank you! Not to mention how some companies jump on trends like they did with battle royales and open world games, to the point where we receive so many copycat products overflowing from our ears. Please, make some impactful games, not mediocre slop that serves no further cultural impact than your everyday meal from McDonald's.
Decision fatigue.
While it is great for both consumers and the competition between game devs that there are so many options to choose from, this can lead to the state of decision fatigue, where it becomes extremely difficult to choose games from a wide range of available titles. I mean, let's face it, our gaming backlogs are absolutely massive, and it gets tiring to even think about managing them. Besides, game stores do not make it any easier by having convoluted AI algorithms that quite frankly love to push out garbage over some niche titles that deserve more love and attention.
Change of taste.
And lastly, people's tastes simply change over time. That is just inevitable. Just because you enjoyed something as a teenager doesn't mean you would love it in your 20s, right? For example, when I first played Skyrim in 2015, I thought it was the best game I had ever played. I wonder what happened. Of course, defining what is boring can differ from person to person, and it is possible that your reasoning for your potential gaming boredom could be something that I didn't even end up mentioning here. Similarly, for some, the reason could consist from one or more of these aforementioned things. Or perhaps you may still enjoy video games as per usual, despite coming across some of these inconveniences, and that's great. People are different in various ways after all. However, what normally is not discussed quite often is the question of today's video. See, people frequently look for answers that would explain their sudden boredom towards video games. Mayhaps it is to seek validation for their worries, who knows. However, I am personally interested in something else. If gaming was actually boring, then why do people keep consuming them as if nothing was out of the ordinary? Now, for a lot of us, video games have been a long time passion. I have mentioned earlier on this channel that I played my first ever video game at just 4 years old, and now in my 20s I still enjoy games here and there. Yet, not gonna lie, it is a rare occurrence to play a game that I truly enjoy where playing doesn't feel like a chore or even like a second job, if you will. Surely modern video games aren't all just shit, right? That sounds absurd to even think about. Besides, even if I am ancient, I do not think I've outgrown gaming or developed a drastically different sense of taste when it comes to using my free time. And it seems that the world built around gaming is on the same boat. The gaming industry is more profitable than 10 or more years ago, and I would imagine that becoming an esport player, a full-time live streamer, or a game designer are some of the most desirable professions out there. Video games have also become very accessible in various forms and have garnered a lot of interest from crowds who previously had no real interest in gaming. And as far as I'm aware, active user bases on different gaming platforms like Steam are rapidly growing year by year basis. So isn't my question quite impractical? I mean, if gaming truly was boring, why would we even maintain our interest in gaming to begin with? Isn't gaming supposed to be fun above all else? Well, apart from the obvious conclusion, which is that modern games are simply boring or lacking in quality these days, leading people into not finding them enjoyable anymore, there are a few other possible reasons. Let's cut to the chase. Modern games really are built to be grindy, am I right? Please don't confuse grindy with difficult, as back in the day, games were purposely designed to be harder than necessary to create an illusion that they take longer to beat than they actually do. But no, I'm specifically talking about games that lock higher tier rewards, whether it is premium currency, cosmetics, or even stronger gear behind ridiculous requirements that heavily force players into a labor-like grind. These requirements can vary from absurdly long questlines to battle passes, the latter often being quicker to complete when real money is involved. And of course, don't forget about those FOMO-filled bundles that you just have to purchase before the time limit, as they will never return to the store ever again. Until they do, of course. So in order to not miss out on those juicy items, be ready to swipe that credit card as soon as possible. I mean, it is pretty smart now that I think about it. These games keep players engaged all the time and might even turn some people into whales that spend hundreds if not thousands of dollars into microtransactions. Whoever came up with these various ideas to monetize your game and get your player base spending more money must have a massive IQ. Oh, wait. Valve was the company that popularized loot boxes with TF2. Now, none of this is new information, as this has been going on for years, if not for a whole decade at this point. DLCs, game expansions, battle passes, cosmetics, you know the deal. They are everywhere. And look, burning hot take. I am not specifically against this. Let me explain. If it provides worthwhile content to the game that I love or would like to try, I'm all in for it. Besides, everyone knows that game developers are competing for players' attention span and loyalty. At the end of the day, that is something they must do. There is only a finite amount of players available each day, so most online video games are in a constant battle with each other to maintain as large of an audience as possible. I know plenty of games that have provided quality updates every few months or so for years now, all all this for completely free of charge. And that is great. Besides, can you really blame them? If features like FOMO or Battle Passes weren't profitable, video game companies wouldn't be using them in the first place. So while it is frustrating that some games feel like walking advertisements, the fact that they function this way is because it works. In the end of the day, businesses exist to make money. One of the reasons why games often release in an unfinished stage is because developers aren't forced to provide flawless products anymore. Back in the day, a good product was what brought in paper. Companies couldn't provide post-launch updates to their games as all the consoles didn't have the support for internet connection. So, if a bad game was released, it would be hailed as one, lowering its sales and heavily impacting the developer. But now many games can get off scot-free with piss-poor launches by promising constant content updates to fix something that should have been fixed before the game's release. Today, many games can sell millions based on name recognition alone, which is why, in my opinion, consumers should practice their decision-making and self-control skills if they want to avoid disappointment. Generally, avoid pre-ordering games and wait for trusted reviewers like me to come up with their verdicts. But Charu, I hear you say, how does anything you just yapped about for the past 5 minutes have to do with the video's topic? Well, there is nothing inherently wrong with a grindy video game. If you enjoy games like that, hey, that's good for you. But the problem in hand is that systems such as Battle Passes are designed to be as addictive and even anti-consumer as possible. You are meant to get hooked and keep playing so that you feel invested and end up using money in microtransactions. You are meant to get frustrated throughout the grind so that you succumb to paying your way for those juicy Battle Pass rewards. You are meant to soullessly consume the product and be excited for the next big thing. But in a grand scheme of things, are you actually even having fun? Are you enjoying your free time, or are you just playing something extremely exhausting? And even more importantly, what happened to enjoying video games as a free time activity, not as a second job? Think of it this way, it is magnificent to obtain that invaluable yet pointless icon that showcases how amazingly unemployed you are. Or those cosmetics from a limited time event that all of your friends would make fun of you for missing out on. But what is even the point if you aren't enjoying those games that you spent in achieving your goal? Or hell, even worse, if you don't even like the game you're grinding to begin with. Let's face the facts. This type of behavior is commonly referred as video game addiction. Essentially, what I'm driving forward here is that if someone develops an addiction to their hobby, in this instance video games, it is only natural to feel boredom towards it while still participating in said activity. Now, I am not a doctor, let alone a professional in the neuropsychological field, neither am I saying that everyone who is bored of gaming is automatically addicted to it. So my argument is quite easy to ignore. What would I know, right? However, I still personally believe that there are more people addicted to video games than most would imagine. And to prove my point, let me tell you guys an open secret. I was, or well, still am, addicted to Counter-Strike. To some of you, this may not come out as a surprise at all. Regardless, let me explain this briefly. I used to play CS on and off from 2015 until around June this year. I had breaks from time to time, but I generally did play the game competitively, almost daily. And even last year, I enjoyed the game quite a bit. Until one certain disastrous day that will go down in infamy. Valve released Counter-Strike 2. Okay, that was slightly too dramatic, so let's just say I have had almost zero fun with CS2. Yet somehow I found, and still do, find myself playing the game all the time. For no real reason, despite not finding basically any enjoyment from the game. Most of the time, each session would end with me being both angry and depressed, only for me to repeat this behavior the next day. It even went to the point where I would prioritize playing Counter-Strike over anything else. Now, be it working on videos for this channel, using my free time effectively, or even just caring about my health in general. This type of chronically online behavior was pretty scary to me, as I would go through 2 to 6 hour sessions about 3 to 5 times a week. This all depending on how much I had played previous days, which days I had free time to play the game, or whether my friends were online or not. And honestly, stopping myself was extremely difficult, as I fooled myself into believing that I enjoyed the game while I didn't have any fun whatsoever. that was all until June this year, when I realized that continuing this way was just outright idiotic behavior. So I didn't touch the game for 3 whole weeks, till I unfortunately relapsed. However, I do play the game drastically less than I used to back in the early 2024 or even last year, which is great, I suppose. Now, thinking in hindsight, the problem here is obvious. Anyone would eventually grow tired of something they were passionate about for almost 9 years straight. I mean, at some point, enough is enough, right? And the reason why I wanted to share this little story is because I generally believe many gamers choose to play video games daily without even understanding how much they hate it. Heck, some of you listening might be playing a game you aren't enjoying as I speak. For many people, gaming has simply become a routine that they have to perform as if it was their job, and then they wonder where all of their free time goes. I know plenty of people that are like this, but sadly they choose to not accept the grim reality. They keep consuming their so-called favorite games, telling others and even themselves that they love it, while secretly hating every lasting minute of it. These types of people could also be completely self-aware. They might publicly even state that they hate the game they're playing, yet they feel obligated to keep playing because no shot, if I quit this game now I won't get this and that, and all my precious time spent on this shitty ass game will be wasted, I hear them say. And that is very saddening. They just don't seem to understand that no matter what type of achievement you're going for, it likely isn't worth the grind if you're not going to enjoy it. It is okay to experience frustration at times. That's just part of living. Hell, even part of the grind if you're up to that. But if that frustration becomes chronic, it is something that, in my opinion, needs to be addressed. I hate to break it to you, as much as video games are fun to play, they should not mandate your entire lifestyle to the point where playing a certain game becomes like a second job. Sure, there is nothing wrong with doing your dailies in gacha games for instance, but if a video game starts making your life harder to manage, that's where the problem lies. What I'm trying to say is that video games are meant to be fun, a form of media to enjoy in your free time. And if you manage to turn your passion for them into a career, that's awesome. So if grinding games are something you truly enjoy, keep at it, gang. I respect you and your grind. However, if you feel a slight tingling of frustration, mental fatigue, boredom, or could relate with my story, please do yourself a favor and take a break. Alright, I apologize for this somber atmosphere I created, but I really do feel like this is an important topic to cover and something that should be addressed more in the media. Video game addiction can be a serious issue, and I believe it can be one of the biggest contributors to the video game fatigue and one of the key reasons why people keep consuming video games even when they are no longer enjoying it. That being said, I just gotta once more say that I am not really blaming video game companies for making their games as addictive as possible, because at the end of the day, it is consumers' own responsibility whether they fall for any of these practices and end up getting addicted to some sort of activity. However, I also gotta state that I'm not a fan of any of these practices that these video game companies do, and hopefully I can address that in depth in my upcoming videos. But that's something for later. Oh, and also, one more thing to mention is that when I finally started playing Counter-Strike Clash, I had more fun with other games as well. A shocker, I know. And simply trying out different games, whether it was racing games or single-player adventure games, has brought me a lot of joy and somewhat reawakened my love for video games once more. So sometimes the key to enjoying games again could simply be something as simple as stepping away long enough to miss them. The reality is that, as mentioned before, people's tastes can indeed change over the years. So even if you have a habit of playing a certain game, you might simply not enjoy it anymore. The habit could exist due to different social connections you may have built around the game. Perhaps your friends still enjoy the game and you feel obligated to keep playing in order to stay in touch with your friend group. I often felt the same way about Counter-Strike, as I do have friends that I speak to on a daily basis that do not play CS at all, and then those friends that I only really interact when discussing or playing the game together. It absolutely sucks when I speak to those friends less when I decide to not play CS as often, but as terrible as it feels, sometimes that's just part of life. And of course, you can try to speak to your friends about other topics, and you might be even surprised that they want to talk about other topics, who knows? The same sense of attachment to a game, often caused by some form of dread, can be anything really. Now be it fear of losing social links, monetary investment or time. Anything related to FOMO are good examples as well. Let's take gacha games as an example, as they drive my point home perfectly. If you stop logging in regularly, you will miss out on those juicy daily rewards, which means you will be lacking on premium currency and then forced to spend real money whenever a character you want releases. Also, from what I can recall, many MMOs even offer monthly logging events where you will obtain bigger and better rewards as long as you keep logging in each perpetual day of the month. So while we can all agree that these systems are awful for the average consumer, at least in some extent, they are not that different from persistently browsing different social medias like TikTok and Instagram for several hours every day out of boredom. Both can even become part of a daily routine and serve as a form of escapism for the user. So if someone feels that a growing sense of boredom towards games is affecting them, then the worst thing you could do is endlessly repeating the same tired game, chasing the same experiences you had in the past, no matter how impossible that is. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Of course, people are different, and perhaps the feeling of boredom could be caused by things completely outside of gaming world, and perhaps the feeling of boredom could be caused by things completely outside of the gaming world, with gaming simply serving as a distraction from the woes of real life. In cases like this, I think it is completely understandable to still keep up with the hobby, even if it doesn't taste that good at the moment. That said, some players are just occasional consumers of video games, and problems like addiction or mental fatigue might not have anything to do with their video game fatigue. In those cases, I would say their choice to keep playing comes simply from the enjoyment of the hobby, even if they are currently finding it boring due to one or more of those reasons mentioned at the start of the video. Or perhaps they are sticking around to consume one or two of their comfort series, which I can respect. I mean, to be completely fair, even if the quality of video games has declined or some of the bigger releases are extremely overpriced, that doesn't inherently mean that those releases are bad. And even if there were hundreds of remarkable games are released each year that are definitely worth playing, one of which I will actually cover in my next video most likely. Anyway, since video games these days are digital, pretty much anyone can get their hands on releases that previously were either region locked or just not sold in their country. And honestly, that's awesome! Apart from most video game stores selling us licenses instead of actual copies of the game, which is scary for longevity of some games, but that's a topic for another video, and besides the point. Even then, I don't necessarily see video games being boring as a bad thing. Everything comes to an end at some point, and finding gaming boring could just be a signal that you gotta change up something in your life. Whether it means dropping gaming entirely or doing something else to spice things up is completely up to you. So today we explored some of the reasons why gaming feels boring to some people and why they might be playing them despite feeling that boredom. Usually I would end my video here and just be like, thanks for watching and listening, but I feel like there is one more thing to explore. That being, how can we avoid finding ourselves bored in our little hobby, and more importantly, how to make gaming entertaining once more. I think the easiest answer would be to simply spice up your game library from time to time so it won't end up feeling stale. I personally tend to have seasons where I only play one type of game, extract absolutely everything out of it, and then move on to the next thing, with the cycle repeating itself endlessly. But that's a boring answer. We don't want that here. The most entertaining answer would be me shitting on big gaming publishers and their studios for overpricing their games, as well as for releasing garbage that no one wants to play. Because no one else has done that before, right? Then again, first of all, I don't want to get in trouble, and second of all, that is something that is completely out of our control. The best we can realistically do is boycott the games that are definition of mid, and keep playing all the games via emulation, or perhaps by purchasing them from GOG instead, where there is no DRM and you actually own the games you buy instead of holding to a license. And perhaps we should give smaller developers a chance whenever we can. Still, that won't be my final answer either, because I do have a simple yet effective solution for this trouble. Go touch some grass.
You happy?
No, like seriously, have a deep breath, explore nature and live your life. And once you come back home, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel and perhaps try another game or a whole new genre of games. I mean, have you ever tried playing something else in League of Legends? Surely, right? But have you actually tried anything else? Try some other games out and challenge yourself. Something I would wholeheartedly recommend as well is to try to learn a new skill. I picked up drawing earlier this year out of pure curiosity and it has been very fun so far. I'm excited to keep learning more and more because honestly just learning new skills is surprisingly fulfilling. Sure, it can be scary at first, but try to go outside your comfort zone. Trust me, it will be worth it. And of course, I'm sure that your gaming backlog is massive, so please give it a shot. And heck, you might find your new favorite game to play for years to come. Besides, even if you don't enjoy gaming as of now, your taste can change anytime. Don't burn yourself off now and just take a break. Games are there to wait for you at any time. Perhaps you will fall in love with your hobby once more 4 years from now. Who knows? Therefore, why not hunt for some new memories? That being said, I apologize for my 5-month-long absence. I'm here to just clear out that I'm absolutely not going anywhere. I have a bunch of new video ideas that I want to try out and I hope I can update you all on that ASAP. Don't worry, this channel is only getting started, but that's something I shall discuss in length in the future, so for now, I thank you all for watching and listening.